Hey everybody, I'm Jack with Future Pastimes, a designer of Dune-themed games and expansions, and we're reading Dune, and we are at the last chapter of Book 2, and with one book in Dune to go. In this chapter, the Fremen are preparing for a very important ritual. So the group there at Siege Tabor, led by Stilgar, realizes they need to leave that siege. They need to move the whole group further south to a different siege. And because they have to make this very arduous trek, their Reverend Mother, Ramallo, who is very old, will not survive such a trek. So they need to get themselves a new Reverend Mother. And they believe that Jessica should be that Reverend Mother. And Jessica agrees because she thinks that if she goes through this ritual to become the new Reverend Mother, it will cement her status with the tribe, keeping her and Paul safe in the biggest way that she can guarantee. But she knows that this is dangerous. This is not just a ceremony where they say, you know, ipso facto, you're the Reverend Mother. She has to go through a metaphysical change. And she's not really sure how they do it here on Arrakis. She is not even really sure how the Reverend Mothers of the Bene Gesserit Order do it, but she knows that however they're doing it on Arrakis is not going to be the same way. So all the Fremen are gathering in the cave, and Jessica is beginning to finally realize the sense of scale here. She's looking around, and she's like, I see 5,000 Fremen, and more are still pouring into the cave. And before the end of the ceremony, there are over 20,000 Fremen that are there in Siege Tabor. So there are a lot of Fremen there, and this is just one siege. So they bring in the old Reverend Mother, and she's described as a crone. So she's really old. She's stick thin, but she's got the blue eyes of Ibad, and she's definitely full on Fremen. And so they bring her in, and they get Jessica ready to go. And Chani comes in, and they say that she has been consecrated as a Sayadina, which is sort of like a Reverend Mother in training. And they can see that she is wearing a green sash as like a sign of mourning because her father, Liet, they learned is dead. And so Chani is doing her best to fulfill her duties, and she's sort of leading the goings-ons there of the ceremony. And Paul comes in being escorted by Jamas's two sons, and Paul's not really sure what's going on. He's like, I thought this was going to be a council meeting, and Stilgar is like, quiet down, you know, this is a big deal. And Stilgar explains to the group, he's like, yes, Sayadina Jessica of the Weirding has agreed to become our new Reverend Mother if she survives. And Paul is like, if she survives. And Jessica, meanwhile, is worried about what this ritual is going to entail, considering that she is pregnant. And she hasn't told anybody. Paul knows, but nobody else knows that this is going on. But the wheels are in motion, and she's like, I got to do this. I got to risk it because, again, she thinks that if she's their new Reverend Mother, it's going to put her in a very strong position to make sure that Paul is safe and they don't have anything to worry about living amongst the Fremen. So some other Fremen come in, and they've got these big sacks filled with a liquid, and Chani brings one up and instructs Jessica she is to drink some of this liquid. And Jessica is like, what is this? And she can smell the cinnamon that is present when spice is there. And so she's wondering, is this going to be a drug? Is it a poison? Is it spice liquor, like the sort that Duncan Idaho was drunk on after the banquet? And she she gets the spigot there, and she takes a little taste, and she's like, all right, there's definitely stuff going on. And she's remembering her training at the Bene Gesserit school, where they try many drugs, and they are exposed to all kinds of poisons and other things, because part of their prana bindu ability is this total control over their bodies. And among other things, it gives them the ability to resist poisons and to resist the effects of drugs as well. But then Chani squeezes the thing, and Jessica is gulping down whatever this liquid is. And so she's feeling the effects, and she discerns pretty quickly, oh, this is a drug. And then she feels like she can see motes floating in the air and then not moving. And she's like, it's like time has stood still. And she realizes that in a way it has. And the reason it has is so that her body has a chance to deal with whatever it is, because it's not only a drug, it is a poison. And she has to neutralize the poison and convert it into something that is not poisonous. And while this is going on, she's able to like see the chemical compound of whatever this drug is, and she's able to visualize how she is converting it into a safe compound. And while that is going on, she's realizing there's another presence there, and it's the old Reverend Mother. And so there's this sort of metaphysical, psychic element to this, which is what becoming a new Reverend Mother actually is. It's about getting the memories of the old Reverend Mother and then making them part of your own memories as well. So she sees the old Reverend Mother, but she perceives her as a young woman, which is how the old Reverend Mother really sees her true self. And Jessica's like, well, this is an hallucination. And the old Reverend Mother is like, no, this is how it is. And you need to focus, because we don't have a lot of time, and I've got a lot of stuff I got to do. And then the old Reverend Mother is like, you should have told us that you were pregnant, and because this is a big deal. And Jessica is like, nothing I can do about it now. And the old Reverend Mother's like, no, I mean, so you and your daughter both have to absorb what's going to happen. You're both going to get this transfer of memory and knowledge and power in this ritual. And you're going to have to help guide your daughter through it. And thank goodness it is a daughter, because if you were pregnant with a male, it would have killed it by now. So Jessica's trying to figure out how she can reach out mentally and psychically to her daughter. And she can sense the fear from her unborn child. And she starts with the litany of fear. I will not fear. Fear is the mind killer. But she realizes this not going to work. And so she's just projecting love and comfort to this fetus. And that seems to work. And so in a blink of an eye, Jessica is absorbing all these memories. And it's not just a Reverend Mother Romalo's memories. It's all of the memories that she absorbed when she became a Reverend Mother, and that Reverend Mother's memories, and that Reverend Mother's memories, and so all the way back. The other thing that she is perceiving here is this black void, and it terrifies her, and she realizes that is the thing that Reverend Mothers can't look into. It's the very thing that the Kwisatz Haderach is supposed to be able to go into and perceive and absorb and gain power from. And so she skedaddles away from that as fast as she can, because she knows it's not in the cards for her, and it's terrifying anyway. So she focuses on the other thing, and she's kind of blown away by all these memories and how far back this Fremen version of the Bene Gesserit ascension is, just how long it goes back before they were even on Arrakis. Most of the inhabitants and the descendants are from these wanderers, the Zensuni wanderers, but even pre-Zensuni, just the Sunni wanderers, and just how they came upon the process to do this. And she realizes that what that water is that it's bile from a sandworm, and one that has been drowned. And so she's realizing these things, and the reason she's realizing it is because she's remembering it through the other Reverend Mother. And so it's all very strange, to be sure. And again, like I said, it's stuff that Jessica is aware of. She knows that Reverend Mothers in the Bene Gesserit order go through something similar, and she realizes that somewhere in the back of her head, she's like, yeah, I think that there are women in the Bene Gesserit order that don't survive this ritual itself, however they do it. But again, she realizes this is not the way that they normally do it, back on Wallach 9 or wherever Reverend Mothers normally get their MBAs. So she gets through it, and then she realizes that she has converted the poison into something that can be imbibed by others, and it is now mingled with the other water that Chani and the water bearers had brought. And one of the last parting messages she gets from the Reverend Mother before the Reverend Mother's existence blinks out, she's like, let them have their orgy. So Jessica realizes what's going to happen is that the Fremen are going to drink this water now that it's safe for them to drink, but it's going to have a profound effect on them as well. And they're going to have their own ritual, and something that's known as the spice orgy. And that, it's a way for the Fremen to cut loose. And one of the first people to drink the changed water is Paul. And Paul is like, he's like, Mother, can I drink this? Is it safe? And she's like, yeah, you can drink it. And Stilgar's like, let's go. A lot of people are waiting for their cut of this. So Paul takes some, and it hits him pretty hard too. And he goes to Chani, and she leads him out of the cave, and they go to a private part of the siege. And she's also experiencing a lot of strange emotions, and she's afraid of certain things, and she's also getting some of that sense. So anytime that you take the spice, it affects different people in different ways. Prescience is something that some people are able to get out of it in a very limited way. And so she's getting some of this strange sensation where she feels like she knows Paul. And Paul, of course, has been experiencing this for quite some time. And he's a little bit high, and he's trying to also deal with the other forms of prescience. So he's seeing things. He's seeing visions of Feyd-Rautha, and realizing this is somebody that he needs to worry about, who he's going to be on a collision course with. And he's seeing, the Emperor and the Harkonnen and the Guild plotting, and the Bene Gesserit scheming. And he's realizing all of that is bearing down on him. And he's also, again, he's thinking, what can I do to avoid this jihad? But he's realizing, with the being in the presence of 20,000 Fremen who are part of this ritual, and he's knowing, there's really doesn't seem any good way to get around that. And Chani is telling him, I've had a vision of holding our child, so I feel like, we are meant to be together. And so they end up comforting each other, and partaking in the spice orgy in some way. Frank Herbert doesn't really get into any specifics there, at least not between the two of them and the whole Fremen group at large. We've moved away from what everyone else is doing here. But the chapter ends, and this book ends with this kind of a message of Paul and Jessica they are part of the tribe. They're in it now. And they're being accepted in different ways. The group has accepted Jessica as the new Reverend Mother, and because she declares to the group that Romallo has been preserved. Her memories are now Jessica's memories as well, much to the relief of everybody there. And Paul realizes that his acceptance of and from Chani is his integration into the Fremen culture, and so they're part of the tribe now for real, all the way in. But the other baggage that's going to come with it, and it's going to be they're taking up each other's struggle with their common enemy, and all that portends. And so it's a little overwhelming for Paul. And so with him just kind of trying to let go of it all and just live in the moment with Chani, and knowing that their love for each other is real. And this is really kind of where it starts, although in many ways it feels like it had already existed to some degree. But now it's real. And so that's kind of where the chapter ends, and the book will end there. Not the whole book, of course, just book 2 of Dune, 3 books of it. The next book is going to be called The Prophet, and that lets us know that it's really going to deal with this whole idea of the Lisan al-Gaib, the voice of the outer world, the Messiah figure that has been prophesied for many centuries, probably longer than that. We're probably talking thousands of years that the Fremen have been waiting for the Mahdi, their Messiah figure, to lead them to something better. And so, yes, that's what's coming up. We'll get into how that works out as we continue to read Dune. This is a trippy chapter, to be sure. So and I had I mentioned earlier in an earlier chapter that some of the parts of Book 2 and Book 3 of Dune are going to have this very abstract, intangible quality to it, as Frank Herbert is trying to describe the effects of spice, the way that prescience works, the powers of the Kwisatz Haderach. So for a lot of people, it's not that it's dense, but it's not straightforward. It's new ground, and we're talking about something that other people typically aren't experiencing and have no frame of reference. So a lot of this is open to interpretation, and so feel free, if you've read through this, especially if you've read through it a few times and have your own thoughts and theories on what has gone on and why, feel free to chime in. We can make this a group effort. I remember reading this through my first time. I got a little bit lost. I was like, yeah, I think I know what's going on, and I'm just going to roll with it. So there definitely is that sense. And even now, reading through it, it's not necessarily easy to articulate exactly what's going on and why. So I'm proceeding from a perspective of this is what I think, and here's how I'm interpreting it. But again, I invite other people to add their 2 cents, to weigh in on the different specifics of the changing of the water of life and the spice orgy, and how the Fremen culture has their own take on Reverend Mothers, and the powers of the Bene Gesserit, even though they are not so directly connected to the Bene Gesserit. But clearly the Bene Gesserit had been at work on Arrakis for some time, and even before those groups got to Arrakis, there was the influence. So, and for me, that says that the Bene Gesserit they've got their lady tentacles in every corner of the Imperium, doing what needs to be done. And I imagine that part of that is for control, the purposes of control. They also, they've got their genetics program, so they want to be familiar with every bloodline and every human skill and quality, and as they manipulate those bloodlines to produce the Kwisatz Haderach, there's a lot of ingredients that probably needed to go into that pot, and a lot of trial and error, and so yeah, it's for centuries they've been at work, and now we are reaching the pinnacle of their work, and is Paul the product of what they've been trying to create, or is he something different? And that's what we're going to learn here, and that's what Paul is going to learn, because he knows what his potential is. He knows what they suspect, not just the Bene Gesserit, but the Fremen themselves. And even though the Fremen probably don't have the term Kwisatz Haderach, they've got a similar super being in mind when they're talking about this Messiah figure. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll keep reading, and I'll see you again soon.